The focus for this evening is to link the positive things, the joyful things in our life with some of the painful things. Before we do this, first we have to focus on pure mudita, as we have been doing for the last 6 days. That's to do mudita on ourselves, and then on the second group, which is our parents, families, and teachers. So, for the sake of time, we will stick to these 2 groups. The first is ourselves. The second is our nearest and dearest one. So what we will be doing is we will be cultivating joyful feeling by revisiting the hard work that we put into and the achievements that we have had and all the contribution we have made into the society, big and small. We think about and we spend at least about 10 minutes on ourselves. And then another 10 minutes for the second group, our parents, then siblings, some relatives that you have a very good relation with, and some of the teachers that you have positive relationship with. Just think about positive things in their life. So after that, after you can feel some mudita, only if you can feel mudita. If you don't feel mudita, you don't need to go to the second step. The second step is to revisit your life again, to look at the painful one, to revisit something that you are not happy with, that you are not uncomfortable with in your life. And consider that in the context of your successes, your achievements. Yes, I have got many good things. I also have this particular weakness, this particular thing that I wish I rather don't have it. So to use the energy of mudita to acknowledge something very painful in our life. Sometimes it doesn't have to be very painful, but something that we are not proud of yet, for example. For example, I have many things that I have done and I can be proud of in my life. There are also things that I feel I have not met my responsibility fully, or I have not been able to do that. So to acknowledge that, to revisit that. The reason that we do this is as you will see in this video clip, to replace the negativity that we have about ourselves, about the people we have around us, to replace the negativity with positive. Before we look at this one, I'd like to say a little bit in Burmese. Diနေ့ညလည်းမုဒိတာအကြောင်းဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့ရှင်းပြမယ်။နောက်ပြီးတော့မုဒိတာဘာဝနာဆက်လုပ်ပါမယ်။ဒီနေ့ညမုဒိတာတော့မုဒိတာရဲ့အဓိက focus ကဘာတော့ဆိုခါတိုင်းနေ့လိုပဲနော်ဒီနေ့6ရက်နေ့မြောက်ခါတိုင်းနေ့လိုပဲကိုယ်ကြောင့်တွေးပြီးတော့မုဒိတာဖြစ်အောင်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ကြိုးစားမှုတွေကိုယ့်ရဲ့အောင်မြင်မှုတွေအများအတွက်ကိုပါဝင်ပြီးတော့ကိုညီတဲ့အပိုင်းနဲ့အဲ့ဒါတွေတွေးပြီးတော့မုဒိတာပွားပါအကျဉ်းချင်းပွားပါအနည်းဆုံး9မိနစ်6မိနစ်အဲ့လိုအချိန်7မိနစ်နောက်ပြီးရင်ဒုတိယအုပ်စုအဲ့ဒါကမိဘနဲ့ဆရာသမားမိဘလို့ပြောရင်မိသားစုကိုပြောတာပေါ့နော်မောင်နှမတွေလည်းပါဆွေမျိုးတွေလည်းပါသူတို့ရဲ့ကောင်းတာတွေတွေးပြီးတော့မုဒိတာဖြစ်မုဒိတာပွားတယောက်ပြီးတယောက်ပြီးတယောက်ပြီးရင်ဆရာသမားအဲ့လိုသူတို့ကောင်းတာတွေသူတို့ကြိုးစားတာတွေသူတို့စေတနာတွေတွေးပြီးတော့မုဒိတာဖြစ်အနည်းဆုံးဒီနှစ်ခုကို15မိနစ်လောက်အချိန်ယူပါအချိန်ယူပြီးမှနောက်ဆုံးဒီဒုတိယဒုတိယအခေါက်ကြဒုတိယအစီအစဉ်ကြတော့ဘာလို့မှာတော့ဆိုရင်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့အကြောင်းကိုတစ်ချက်ပြန်တွေးတယ်ဒါမဲ့ဒီတစ်ခေါက်တွေးတဲ့အခါမှာကိုယ်စိတ်တိုင်းမကြတာတွေတခုခုစိတ်တိုင်းမကြတာတွေစင်မပြေသေးတာတွေကိုမယူနိုင်သေးတဲ့ဟာတွေစိတ်ပြတ်တာတွေအဲ့ဒါတခုတွေးအဲ့ဒီ negative ပြတ်တဲ့ဟာတွေးတာကိုဒီ positive တွေးထားတဲ့ဟာခါတော့ငါမုဒိတာတွေးထားတာနဲ့ပြန်ပြီးတော့နိုင်ရှင်ပါဆိုလိုတာကမုဒိတာအင်အားကိုအသုံးပြုပြီးတော့စိတ်ရဲ့ဒဏ်ရာဒဏ်ချက်တွေကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့လက်ခံနေပြန်ပြီးတော့ကုစားတယ်တိုက်ရိုက်ပြန်ကုစားတယ်ခါတိုင်းနေ့တွေတော့တိုက်ရိုက်မကုစားဘူးအပြင်ကနေပတ်ပြီးတော့ကုစားတာအဝေးကနေကုစားတာဒီနေ့ကျတော့အထဲကိုကြကြနနာဝင်တွေးတယ်စိတ်တန်တန်ချက်အကြောင်းတွေကိုမကြည်နဲ့တဲ့အကြောင်းတွေအဲ့ဒါတွေတွေးပြီးတော့စိတ်တိုင်းမှာရှိနေတဲ့စိတ်တန်တန်ချက်ကိုမုဒိတာနဲ့အစားထိုးတာ negativity ကို positive အရာနဲ့အစားထိုးတာဓမ္မပဒခါထာ120မှာမာဝမေညေထပုံညတာကုသိုလ်အထင်မသေးနဲ့နာမန္တအာဂမိတ္တိတင်းငယ်တယ်ဆိုပြီးတော့တကယ်ဖြစ်မလာပါဘူးဆိုပြီးတော့အဲ့လိုတော့အထင်မသေးနဲ့ဥဒ္ဒဘိန္ဒုနိဗ္ဗာဒေနတစ်ဆက်ကြာလာတယ်ကုသိုလ်စိတ်မုဒိတာစိတ် positive ဖြစ်တဲ့ emotion အဲ့ဒါတွေဟာဥဒ္ဒကုံပေါ်ပြီးပုရိတိအရင်တော့ဘာမှမရှိတဲ့စင်အိုအကြီးကိုလည်းပဲပြည့်စုံပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါကြောင့်ဗီဒီယိုလေးကြည့်လိုက်ရအောင်ဦးစနေတိုင်းတ So we watch this video first before we do meditation. This is TED Talk by Dr. Rick Hanson. TED Talk. The name of the talk is Hardwiring Happiness. I'll microphone. Hardwiring Happiness, that's a book that he has written. And this TED Talk is based on that. It's about cultivating good qualities. He would say, if you take care of the minutes, the month will take care of itself. If we take care of the small things, the big things will take care of themselves. He would recount from his childhood. This University of California, Berkeley, the Buddha's praying Buddha oh no, Saoko Yiri Sayapsipari. Buddha Jam Pure. Geroma Atan Jama Timya. A 19 kind of Ponsan New. A young Masube Metunya Tune, a pomelo chimbu, Edilo. A bag kind of dua. A tangy pillow, a tan chinilo. အဲ့ဒါနဲ့စိတ်ထဲမှာ negative တွေဖြစ်လာအသက်ကြီးလာတဲ့ခါကျတော့တက္ကသိုလ်ရောက်သွားတော့လူတွေဟာသူ့ကိုကောင်းကောင်းမွန်မွန်ဆက်ဆံကြတယ်အဲ့လိုဆက်ဆံတဲ့အခါမှာသူကကောင်းတဲ့အတွေ့အကြုံကိုချက်ချင်းအာယုံတခြားအာယုံနဲ့မေးဖြစ်ဖုံးမဖြစ်ပဲနဲ့အဲ့ဒီအတွေ့အကြုံနဲ့ positive အတွေ့အကြုံလေးနဲ့ခဏလေးနေနေလိုက်တယ်9 seconds 10 seconds. So the trick is whenever he has a good experience he would stay with that good experience, make effort to stay with that good experience, maybe half a minute, maybe 10 seconds, like that. Over time, that changes the brain. He's a neuroanalysis, neuropsychologist. Hardwiring happiness. Hardwiring happiness. My song, number 2. Xiên bèo. Hmm? Chọn được này.
Wow. So what I want to do here, if I could, is share with you a very simple yet powerful method grounded in neuroscience for turning passing experiences into lasting structure, useful structure inside our brain. In other words, turning experiences into the happiness or the resilience or the other inner strengths that we really want inside ourselves. I sort of stumbled on this method when I was in college, but to explain the context, I have to take you back a little before into my own up and down childhood. So I grew up in a loving home of good parents, intact family, but I was very, very young going through school. I had a late birthday and I skipped a grade. And that combined with my kind of shy and seriously dorky temperament, skinny, glasses, pick glass for baseball, the whole thing. Well, what it led to were lots of experiences of being left out or put down by the other kids in school. Now, what happened to me was very small compared to, unfortunately, what happens to many, many other people. But we all have normal needs to feel cared for, to feel cared about. We're the most profoundly social species on the planet. As we evolved in the Serengeti, exile is a death sentence. Causes have effects. And if we don't get the supplies that we need, bit by bit, it's kind of like we're living on a thin soup. You can survive, you can make it, but there's a hollowness and emptiness inside. In my own case, hopefully this will work, yes, I ended up with lots of bad thoughts and feelings inside of me as a result. Then I went off to college, and I began to notice something really powerful and interesting. Some small good thing would happen. A girl would smile at me in the elevator. Some guy would throw me the football, an intramural football, and say, "Good catch, Ensign." That was really good. Or guys would invite me to go out for pizza. Basic stuff of everyday life. And then I would have an experience, right? I would feel a little included, or a little wanted, a little appreciated. Then the question is, what would I do with that experience? If I dealt with it like I usually did, which was to kind of ignore it, let it pass along, I kept feeling lonely and inadequate. But I began to notice that if I did something different, if I stayed with it a dozen or so seconds in a row, it felt like something was gradually coming into me that was actually good. And I began feeling better and better and better and more confident. Any single time I did this wasn't a, mind-blowing moment. I had a few of those through other means. But the good things really did add up over time for me, definitely. And now, years later, many years later, as a neuropsychologist, I began to understand what I was actually doing. It wasn't just changing my mind. I was actually changing my brain. That's because, as the neuroscientists say, neurons that fire together wire together. Passing mental states become lasting neural traits. Bit by bit, I was actually weaving these resources into the fabric of my brain and therefore my life. There are many examples of the ways in which mental activity can change brain structure. For example, taxi cab drivers in London at the end of their training have a thicker brain and a key part called the hippocampus that does visual spatial memory. And a different kind of example, I don't know if anybody in here experiences stress, right, occasionally. Well, if we have the experience of stress, that releases cortisol in the body, it goes up into the brain. Cortisol gradually stimulates the alarm bell of the brain, the amygdala, so it rings more loudly and more quickly, and cortisol weakens. It actually kills neurons in the hippocampus, which besides doing visual spatial memory, calms down the amygdala and calms down stress altogether. So this mental experience, stress, especially if it's chronic and moderate to severe, gradually changes the structure of the brain, so we become progressively more sensitive to stress. Right? The mind can change the brain to change the mind. Knowing this is really valuable because the inner strengths, to go back to the beginning of my story here, the inner strengths that we all want, happiness, positive emotion, determination, feeling love, confidence, the virtues, the executive functions, those are all built out of the brain. The question is how to actually get them into the brain. The interesting thing is that most of the wholesome qualities, mind and heart, that help us cope with life, including coping with hard things, and have a lot inside ourselves to give to other people, most of those inner strengths are built from positive experiences of those strengths. If you want to feel more confident, for example, have more experiences of accomplishment or coping. If you want to have a more loving heart, practice more moments of compassion or kindness for others. The problem is that to get these experiences into our brain, we have to overcome the brain's hardwired negativity bias. This negativity bias means that the brain is very good at learning from bad experiences, but bad at learning from good ones. In other words, good experiences kind of bounce off the brain unless we do a little thing that I'm going to tell you about in a moment. Meanwhile, bad experiences sink right in. The reason for the negativity bias is that our ancestors had to pay a lot of attention to bad news, because if they survived it, they had to remember it forever. Right? Once burned, twice shot. These days, we have ordinary experiences of this. Think about a relationship you're in, right, with someone you live with, work with, sleep with, whatever. Let's say 10 things happen in a day with that person. 5 of them are positive, 4 are neutral, 1 is negative. Which is the one we tend to think about as we go to sleep? Right? That's why a lot of studies show that a good long-term relationship typically needs at least a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions. That's a cautionary tale, right? All right. So that's the negativity bias. It creates a fundamental bottleneck in the brain that creates a weakness in both informal efforts and formal efforts to grow, to heal, to train ourselves in different ways. Whether you're a psychologist like me, or a meditation teacher like me, or a corporate trainer, or a coach, a parent, I'm also a parent with my wife, or you're trying to help people in one way or another, we tend to be very good at activating positive mental states. But are we very good at helping people install them in the brain? I don't think so. There's been this long-standing assumption that if we just get a good thing going, somehow it will sink in. What can we do? We can learn to take in the good, to pop open this bottleneck in the brain, and gradually weave good experiences into the fabric of our brain and our life. So I thought we could actually do it here right now. Something experiential. All right, it is Marin County. We could go for it. Don't just try it right now. It's a little weird or artificial. Why not? All right, just go for it. So I'll take you through this kind of informally, then I'll explain what we just did. So if you could, bring to mind someone that you know cares about you. It could be a pet, it could be a group of people. People, could be a person in your life, in your past, doesn't really matter. What you're trying to do is have a good experience, a simple good experience of feeling cared for. You're trying to help the idea of this person, or the image, or a memory, become a feeling. Okay, want to try? And then once you get it going, you're moving out of concept to experience. Stay with it. It's kind of a critical mass of time, a threshold. Things have to last long enough in our experience to transfer from short-term memory buffers to long-term storage, including emotional life. And meanwhile, you could sense that this experience is going into you. You're absorbing it. It's sinking into you, feeling love as you sink into it. A simple moment, 10, 20 seconds, usually won't change our life. But bit by bit, it can really make an enormous difference. I'd like to tell you the little steps of taking the good. They're very simple. I even have a clever acronym that you can use to remember them. Our daughter thought of the last word of the acronym. Very important, so I want to give her credit. So, in the first step, have a good experience. We've got to activate. We've got to get it going. Right? The brain is like an old school cassette recorder. It records the music by playing it. We have to have an experience. In the second step, enrich the experience. Help install this activated mental state into your brain as a neural trick. Let it last, help it grow in your body, help it become increasingly intense. Give yourself over to it. And in the third step of taking the good, absorb it. Sense and intent that it's sinking into you. This will prime memory systems. This will sensitize them so they'll be more efficient at encoding the experience into neural structure. And then, if you want to, the optional step is to link the positive experience with something negative. You've got to be a little careful about this because you don't want to be hijacked by the negative. But if you can stay strong with the positive, it will gradually associate with the negative. Neurons that fire together wire together. And it'll go into the negative to soothe it, ease it, even gradually replace it. And you can use this step of taking in the good, where you're linking positive and negative, for yourselves or for children or for clients, students, or others you care about. You can use this method to heal old pain or neglect, whether in adulthood or childhood, even reaching down into young parts of yourself. To kind of sum it up here, we have 4 steps that become an acronym HEAL, H-E-A-L. It's an easy way to remember.
Dạng bộ rồi. Connection lại. Lại connect lại. Kết vậy. So we got the message now. H-E-A-M. H-E-A, we have been doing that for the last 6 days. This evening we're going to do the last one, which is linking. Positive and negative.
As a neuropsychologist, I began to understand the optional step is to absorb it and, if you like, link it. So it really becomes a part of you. Now, this may seem a little complicated. We all know how to take in the good. We all know how to help some good life lesson land. Some good experience with other people. We know how to let these things land. In a nutshell, this whole thing boils down to, on my verbiage here, to 4 words. Have it and enjoy it. Right? Especially enjoy it, so it becomes a part of you. This is not about covering over negative truths, right? Paradoxically, the more we take in the good, we're more able to see the bad and do something about it. In fact, this is about taking control of the brain's Stone Age bias, right, in the 21st century, to excessively focus on the bad and over-worry about it. Right? Any single time we do it isn't going to change our life, but the gradual accumulation, both in the flow of our day and at special times if we want to, like at meals or at nighttime before bed or after meditating or a workout, we can gradually build this up inside ourselves. I think of it as the law of little things, right? It's usually lots of little bad things that take us to a bad place. And it's lots of little good things that take us to a better one. There's that saying they have in Tibet. I think about it often. They say, if you take care of the minutes, the years will take care of themselves. I find that so hopeful, isn't it? Right? What's the most important minute in your life? It's the next one. Right? Can't do anything about the past. A few minutes into the future, we start losing a lot of influence. But the next minute is a phenomenal opportunity for us. Like me back in college, or any one of us today, or over the course of this evening, what will we do with the most important minute in our life? Right? And especially, what will we do with the good that's authentically available to us in it? Will we waste it, or will we, a few times a day, or even more, actually take it into ourselves? For me, there's a Buddhist saying that really speaks to the heart of the opportunity in the most important minute of our life. It goes like this. Do not think lightly of good, saying, it will not come to me. Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise one, gathering it little by little, fills oneself with good. So, may you and I and all beings everywhere, little by little, fill ourselves with good. So, thank you.
I think it's clear. What we have to do is to stay with good things longer according to this. And we have been doing this for the last 6 days. That's mudita. What we have to do is what he says as an option. To link the positive and negative experience. So this evening, I would like to suggest that we do the usual mudita, which is according to Dr. Rick Hansen, that have good experience, enrich it, absorb it. So by thinking of the good thing about ourselves and of the second group, and after that, we go to the last syllable, which is L, to link something, to link our success with something we are not comfortable with in our life. It's the same with the second group, because we can think about their shortcoming, their some painful experiences in their life, against the blessing, the fortune, the hard work, the positive thing they have in life. Okay, we can start now. I will be explaining a little bit more in Burmese. ဒီနေ့ညတရားထိုင်မုဒိတတရားထိုင်ပုံထိုင်နေရတော့စောပိုင်းပြောသလိုပဲမုဒိတာဝါပြီးတော့ကောင်းတာတွေးပြီးစိတ်ထဲမှာမုဒိတာဖြစ်လာရင်အဲ့ဒီမုဒိတာဟိုပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့စိတ်ပီတိစိတ်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ဘဝထဲမှာကိုယ်စစ်ပြည့်ခဲ့ရတဲ့အရာတစ်ခုမကျေနပ်တဲ့အရာတစ်ခုနောင်တရတဲ့အရာတစ်ခုပေါ့မုဒိတာအင်အားနဲ့သူ့ဘာတွေးပါအဲ့ဒီလိုသွားတွေးတယ်ဆိုရင်မုဒိတာအင်အားကြောင့် အဲ့ဒီစိတ်ဓာတ်တန်ချက်တွေအာရော့သွားနိုင်ပါတယ်မနေ့ကကိုရိုနာဗိုင်းရပ်စ်အကြောင်းပြောရနေရမှာကိုရိုနာဗိုင်းရပ်စ်က negative ဖြစ်တဲ့အရာဖြစ်ပါတယ်စိတ်ဒီဝူဟန်ဗိုင်းရပ်စ်ကကြောက်စရာစိတ်ပူပင်စိုးရိမ်စရာတစ်ခုဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့မနေ့ကဘုံဘုံဘာပြောတော့ဆိုတော့လူလောကကြီးထဲမှာလူသားတွေအားလုံးနိုင်ငံတွေတော်တော်များများစုပေါင်းပြီးတော့ကောင်းတိုင်းလုပ်တာတွေရှိပါလုပ်ခဲ့တာတွေရှိပါတယ်စေပညာလောကမှာအဲ့ဒါတော့ဘာလို့စ조사ပြီးတော့ယောဂတွေဟိုလေ့လာဆေးတွေပေါ်အဲ့ဒီလိုနဲ့ပလိယောဂမရှိတော့ဘူးငှက်ဖျားယောဂမရှိတော့ဘူးကင်ဆာယောဂတော်တော်များများနဲ့ကုနိုင်ပြီ2013-14အဲ့တော့ပေါ်ခဲ့တဲ့ SARS တို့ MERS တို့နောက်မကြခင်ကပေါ်တဲ့အာဖရိကမှာပေါ်တဲ့ Ebola တို့အဲ့ဒီယောဂတွေကိုလည်းပဲဆေးတွေတွေ့နိုင်တယ်ထိန်ချုပ်နိုင်ခဲ့တယ်အကောင်းနဲ့ဆိုးနဲ့တွဲပြီးတော့ကြည်တာပါအဲ့လိုကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာမုဒိတာလုံးမထားတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဆိုရင်စိုးရိမ်တဲ့စိတ်ကအနုကြံစီပါတယ်အခုဒေါက်တာရစ်ဟန်ဆန်သုံးတဲ့စကားလုံး hijack လုပ်ပါတယ်အနုကြံစီသွားဆိုတာကဆွဲခေါ်ပါစိုးရိမ်တဲ့စိတ်ကဆွဲခေါ်ပါတယ်ဒါကစိုးရိမ်လို့မပြီးတော့အဲ့လိုဖြစ်တတ်တယ်ဒါကြောင့်နေစဉ်ဘဝမှာတွေ့ကြုံရတဲ့စိတ်ဖြစ်စီမှုတွေကင်တွယ်နိုင်ဖို့အတွက်မုဒိတာအင်အားလိုပါတယ်မုဒိတာနဲ့ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီစိုးရင်စရာတွေကြောက်စရာတွေကိုတွေးတဲ့အခါမှာအဲ့ကြောက်စိတ်ကကိုယ့်ကိုအနိုင်ယူမသွားဘူးလို့ပြောတာဒီနေ့ညကြည့်လိုက်တဲ့ဗီဒီယိုကလစ်ကဘုံဘုံတရားဟောရင်မချမ်းပြတယ်ဗီဒီယိုကလစ်လေးပါသူကဘာတော့ဆိုလူသားတွေကပျော်ရွှင်မှုကိုဖန်တီးတတ်တယ်ဒါပေမဲ့အဲ့ပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့စိတ်ကြာရှိတည်တတ်အောင်တော့မလုပ်နိုင်ကြဘူးအဝတ်စားလှလှလေးဝတ်လိုက်စိတ်ပျော်ရွှင်တယ်အဲ့ဒီပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့စိတ်ကြာခံအောင်မလုပ်တတ်ဘူးအစာတော့ကောင်းကောင်းလေးချက်စားတယ်စားတဲ့ချိန်မှာစိတ်ကပျော်ရွှင်တယ်စိတ်လှုပ်ရှားတယ်ပြီးရင်အဲ့ဒီကောင်းပါတယ်ဆိုတဲ့ဘယ်နည်းစားနိုင်ဘယ်နည်းမှမစားနိုင်ဟင်းကောင်းကြောင့်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတယ်ပျော်ရွှင်မှုမထိန်နိုင်ဘာဖြစ်လို့တော့ဆိုမုဒိတာအကျင့်မရှိလို့လူလောကကြီးထဲမှာဘုံဘုံတို့တိုးတက်တယ်ဆိုပြီးတော့ရှေးတုန်းကလူတွေကိုတော့မှအထင်သေးတယ်ဘုံဘုံတို့ခုခေတ်လူသားတွေကိုပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့စိတ်အကြာကြီးပေးနိုင်လားဆိုမပေးနိုင်ဘုံတို့ငယ်တော့မျိုးနယ်တိုင်းမှာတော့မှတယ်လီဖုန်းတွေမရှိပါဘူးအခုကျတော့ iPhone တွေနော်ဒီလက်ခံဖုန်းတွေလူတိုင်းမိဘရှိတယ်အဲ့ဖုန်းတွေရခါစားတော့စိတ်ကပျော်ရွှင်တာပေါ့ပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့စိတ်ဖြစ်အောင်လုပ်တတ်တယ်လူသားတွေရဲ့စွန့်ရင်ဒါပေမဲ့တရားထိုင်တတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားတွေကရုဏာမုဒိတာတရားတွေဒီတရားတွေမပါဘူးဆိုရင်တော့ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့ပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့စိတ်ကိုချရှိအောင်မ ထိန်ထားနိုင်ပါဘူးဒါကြောင့်မုဒိတာလေ့ကျင့်နေကြတာဒီနေ့ညကြတော့မုဒိတာအင်အားကိုအသုံးပြုပြီးတော့ဘဝမှာမပြည့်စုံတာတွေအားငယ်ရတာတွေစိတ်ညစ်ရတာတွေအလိုမကျတာတွေစိတ်တိုးတာတွေအဲ့ဒီဟာတွေနဲ့ပြန်နိုင်ရှင်းပြီးတော့ကြည့်ဖို့ပါပဲ15မိနစ်လောက်တရားထိုင်မယ် dedicate our meditation practice to the triple gems and liberation, and also share our merits with all living beings. Imaya Dhammanudhamma Padipadiya Buddhaṃ Buddhe Imaya Dhammanudhamma Padipadiya Dhammaṃ Buddhe Imaya Dhammanudhamma Padipadiya Sanghaṃ Buddhe Adayimaya Dhammanudhamma Padipadiya Jadi Jara Jadi Maranama Padi Mujisa Dhammi Punya Asawakaya Wahang Ho Idame Nippanasa Pacayo Ho Punya Pakan Sabha Sattana Dhima Bhaje Kusumi Dinan Milaminam Aukan Lai Sang Parima Lai Sen Kampa Đấng Sen Đấng Đốn Na Chêm Vi Chêm Sang Chêm Sát Chêm Cô Quỳnh Ya Sát Đào Hòa Nở Sát Chào Hòa La Ananda Sát Chào Hòa La Đấng Sen Thiên Đồng Sa Thu Anumodana Lai Hấp Khu Sự Phán Lý Hiện Bên Gắn Sinh Sinh Sa Cam Lợi Đam Sa Thu Sa Thu Sa Thu Thà Nam Ya Si La Ya Bhavanam Ya Thao Sao Kha Đấng Sen Đấng Lô Ya Đô Hồn Đô Ha Hiểm Âm Lai Côn Hiểm Âm Lai Yon Phạc Hàng Rai Nơi Mà Hô Trái Hao Khăn Tổ Tao Ho Tía Sư Sàm Amatha Nibbana Đi Khát Yên Sa Cam Lợi Đam Sa Thu Sa Thu Sadhuvandami Bhante Sappang Abarada Kamathame Bhante Maya Kadang Bunyang Samena Anumoti Tapang Samena Kadang Bunyang Tapang Sadhu Sadhu Anumodami Vandami Sapphidiyo Vivaccantu Sokoroko Vinasatu Mahade Bhavantandaraya Sukhidikayuko Bhava อภิวาทนาสิริสานิจังวุฒาปจายโนจัตตารโอธรรมวัฏันติอายุวันโนสุขังภาลังCan you briefly translate your questions so that they can understand? Just briefly. How did la phải tay nè, đọc phải tay,จะคุยจิตาเขาช่วยเปลี่ยนบรรพายกินข้าใครพันอัน statement อันนี้ principle อันนี้ลองซื้อใจลองเนียงใจทั้งสองอันนี้มันเป็นตั้งยามไว้ว่า habit เขาเฮ็ดอันใดเฮิงบ่ยามเฮ็ดอันไหนผมก็ยามพอเขาใกล้เฮ็ดเนี่ยมันยามกว่านั้นน่ะพอใครกินเกิดเจียมยามกว่าพอเขาลดให้กินนะอันกินเกิดจางเนี่ยมันก็ยามครับมันจางอ่ะคนอันมาเกิดเจียมเคยมาว่าเขากินเกิดจางที่ได้เขาเนี่ยเขากินเกิดจางเขากินอันมันหวานมันก็เขาเบื่อจากอันนี้เขายามนะเขาบอกนั่นแหละ happiness and unhappiness ทั้งสองอันนี้มันเป็น habit อันเขาเห็นมุติตาเนี่ยเขาพึกให้ลองชื่อใจสุขาเนี่ยเฮิงเปลี่ยนตั้งยามก่อนเฮิงเป็น habit เมื่อในอันดร. Rick Hanson ถามกันคนเขาเนี่ยเหมือนเช่นหือในใจเขาเนี่ยเอาออกเนี่ยมันเหมือนเช่นหนังมันเหมือนเช่นหนังเหมือนเช่นเตาเช่นแม่นะคล้องในเรียกตามนะคล้องในเรียกอันมีไว้เนิ่นเนี่ยมีอยู่อีสานเนี่ยมันเหนียวเป็นสีเหลืองหมดเลย ลองหันใจลองทางเช่นนั้นจะมือเรียกในเขาความไทยว่าสะสมมันสะสมในเขาเก็บมาเขาอย่าง เก็บมาไว้นำมีเนื้อนะอันเนื้อเนี่ยมันมีลองหันใจเนี่ยนำเนาะเขาบอกเขาปันข้าวยามันนำคำในแต่ที่เอาลองอันซื้อใจกับใส่เนื้อเนี่ยโค้งเนี่ยมันสำเร็จของเมื่อไกลนั้นมันควักในคอควักในคอนั่นมันบ่อย่างเลยมันว่ากาย a dozen second 1 มินิเนี่ยมี60 second มันเชื่อว่าเมื่อไหนมีเปิดมาดูมาคำเอามาคำเอาไว้พอกินเย้าเนี่ยในสวบในเจียมอันเจียมเนี่ยเพราะว่ากินเอาพ้องเจียมเนี่ยใจเนี่ยอย่าไปกับวนฐานคำตั้งอย่าไปกับเฮ็ดหันนะอยู่ที่อันเจียมเนี่ยอยู่ซ้อมไอ้สามนั่นอันคำใจว่าเอาไอ้สามอินนั่นอันนี้เอาโมเกอร์เนี่ยเอาโม12 second พอเฮ็ดจังไหนเนี่ยคอติ่งอันนั้นนะคอเต่าเนี่ยมันได้กว้างเอาไว้เห็นเลยอันมันมีเหมือนกันนั่นสีเขียวนั่นลองซื้อใจเนี่ยมันมากุยค่าแขกพันกะดีแล้วเขาอันนี้เขาเอาอันนั้นซ้ายเขานั่นวานมันจะเริ่มนำนะเฮ็ด16 ชั่วโมงไหมทั้งเต็ม16 ชั่วโมงเหมือนอันนี้เขานั่งเยวันเนี่ยมอก15 มินิเลย15 มินิเลยเอามาอะคิมิเลตใช่ไหมเอามาดุมกันจังไหนเพราะว่ามันเตรียมมา16 ชั่วโมงเนี่ยจะขี่ใจว่ามันขี่ใจเพราะลองขี่ใจมีมาในกั้มไว้เขาว่า quick recovery นะมันจึงเขารวมให้เขาขึ้นลุกขึ้นกั้มเดียวนั้นนั่นนะมือเลี้ยวเนี่ยพระเจ้าขึ้นวนด้วยนะวนด้วยอยู่ลายใจเขาเนี่ยอันเก่าวนลองไม่เจอมีหลายชั่วโมงอยู่ลายอันเก่าวนลองดีซื้อเจอมีหลายชั่วโมงเนี่ยเขากะเฮ็ดเอ็กซ์ไซส์ก่อนเดินแห้งภายอันดีจะสุกในกำลังก็มันในมุทิตาเนี่ยบอกว่ามันเรียนตั้งในพองมันเรียนภายอันดีซื้อในพองเอาสติมาอยู่ซ้อมอันไหนไหนนะป้อยเฮ็ดซึ่งนั้นเนี่ยเหมือนซึ่งว่าอันคำนะเขาทำมุทิตาเฮ็ดอีกทางไหนวนลองดีนะเขาวนเอา6 วัน1 วันเนี่ยเขาว่า15 มินิเนี่ยรายการใน1 ชั่วโมงครึ่งเขาเอาแห้งมุทิตา1 ชั่วโมงครึ่งเนี่ยคำเนี่ยเขามาวนลองอันหันใจลองอันดีเจ็บใจลองดีพิษใจมาวนจะไหนพอวนเสียงไหนเนี่ยเขาเอาแห้งอีกหลังมาวนเอาแห้งมุทิตามาวนอันดีเจ็บใจเนี่ยมันบ่แห้งเหมือนพวกกูบอกแล้วhabit habit
should be so in order, it's going into the bottle. So, for example, at the first attempt, just like give the mouth of bottle. So it's really difficult, but when using our effort and mindfulness, and it's just likely as if it's enlarged and open. If yes, positive emotion has a space to go in. So it's next step by step, it goes smoother and smooth like that. So the main important thing is that we use our mindfulness and we direct our attention to the positive side. That's going to be okay. And scientists also recommend that if we keep going on practicing this for 16 hours.
1-6.
Yes.
1-6.
Yeah. 16 hours. So it's work. So we see benefits. Thank you.
16 ชั่วโมงเลยนะเจ้าวิจิตรเจ้าเหตุทางยามมาวนลองอ่านคำเจอมานะ96 ปีแล้วในเขาย้อนเจ้าใน16 ชั่วโมงเลย
I would like to comment you a question that you can learn from the Sakharavata, the Buddha said that in January, certainly, Nabasana, Nabasana, Pesopani, Nabasana, they have more facility. And you can look at the also truly, and your life will be stable. Mahamandarin also, and I think a great decision, and it's true.
Well, I still have difficulty in some point, and maybe my mindfulness and my experience of mudita is has still a limited extent. Sometimes I think about our surroundings and like biodiversity, and I just think about our human beings just not aware of our surroundings. And for example, now around our university, there is many kinds of birds come back due to the weather change. I'm aware that in the month of October and November, they went to seek their shelter somewhere. So like that, the human being just so greedy, and we just build and we just so selfish and consider our own, and we invent many things, and we just create many things. And sometimes I think if our environment, trees and everything is gone, maybe that biodiversity also will be extinct. So now our surrounding, we don't even see such a big creature like a tiger or rabbit and so on. So because this is beyond our capacity to convince people. So in the practice of mudita, it doesn't cover enough.
I talk about, well, we're not talking about compassion, but we are talking about mudita. In this case, if you can see one man's effort who can change things, well, sometimes that one man can be a king, sometimes can be a monk, sometimes can be an ordinary person. In Thailand, for example, fishermen, they fish. And certain types of fish and marine creatures were about to go extinct. And the king took the initiative to preserve them. And they come back. This is one of more than 4,000 projects that he initiated, the previous king. And another thing is that people cut a lot of trees. They cut trees earlier than our country. Deforestation happened there first. So that affected the soil. Soil erosion happened very quickly. Later, even grass, didn't grow. The land became barren. And what did the king do? He researched land. That grass will rehabilitate the soil. You can see the effort of someone who doesn't give up. They can change things. When the Buddha was enlightened, he was the only one in the world enlightened. The rest, people were all ignorant. You see? So, mudita in himself, we can use the word piti, which is part of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And that one kept him positive. So he started working on people one by one, convincing people. And here today we are with his teaching. That's about, I think when we come across difficult times, difficult things, when the task looks like an uphill, at that moment, what we need is the ability or the belief in goodness, the ability of good things to sink into people's heart. How many people we need to understand this? We only need leaders. If we have leaders, then many things happen. We don't need to convince many people because a lot of people, they don't think. They don't use their brain. People use their emotion mainly, even the so-called very educated country. But it comes to a certain thing, people use their emotion. Dr. Rick Hansen uses one word earlier, emotional learning. Emotional learning. If we believe in the good thing, and we persevere. It happens. Yeah. Anything? Okay.
Good evening, Sarah. Sarah, I would like to ask why you ask us to contemplate to the last negative and then come back to the second group, like the person that loves us very much, contemplate on their negativity. Why?
We are not conscious of our subconscious habit. Let me put it technically that way. We are not conscious of our conscious habit. No, so our subconscious habit in normal circumstances. Only in meditation, when we provide some trigger like this, we can see. And some of the time, even the people we love, the people we respect, there may be some point in our life that we look at them negatively. We compare them with sometime, for example, I was very stressed out at one point when I was doing my doctorate in Oxford. It didn't happen very often, but one time it happened. It happened many. Since I was young to go to Oxford. You see, I saw everyone getting there a lot younger, and then they seem to be coping a lot better at that moment. Because emotionally I was negative at that time. So I saw them. I look at them. That must have come from somewhere. When I didn't get my way and I used to blame them, there must be connection. So in order to acknowledge this element in my subconscious mind, I need something good, I need something positive, some power, some energy to cope with that. And I use mudita energy. Now, my mother was the only child, and her uncle was very learned, but her, being a woman, she was never sent to school, so she didn't know how to read and write. But she was a very clever lady. Socializing skill and the ability to take care of the whole family. That thing she had. So when I look at all the positive things, how she coped with difficulties in her life, the kind of strength that she had, resilience that she had, the generosity that she demonstrated to other people. She supported many monks. With that, with all those positivities that I have, then I will go and look at anything that people may consider shortcoming. When I look at them, I can see in my mind whether I look down on her, whether I'm still impressed with her. I can look at my emotion. It's an emotional learning. So after this practice, that thought of blaming her for something that goes wrong in my life, it doesn't happen again. This is for people who knowingly or unknowingly may have had some trauma in life. If you look at that, if there is no trauma in you, then whatever shortcoming there is, you don't actually see it as a shortcoming. You just see it as one of those things. Meaning you don't become judgmental towards those people. Yeah. This is a kind of operation deep down in the heart. We use the power of mudita to do that. There are times when we are very stressed out that our mind is mainly attracted to negative things. If that happens, and if we happen to think about our loved one, our parents and teacher at that time, we will see only negative side, negative aspect in their life. So this is specifically for this purpose.
Can I help?
Please, here. Here, microphone. You can have many questions. I could see you writing down many.
I would say, you do what you say, and pay respect to you at all time. I heard some you are saying in teachings that is we should feel compassion. I would say, you do what you say. I pay respect to you at all time. I heard some of your teaching in your saying, and very good. I remember all the time. That's it. We should feel compassion on the people, past or a person who we have agreement and provide our manner. This is really good. But for me, another one, I can help Buddhista on ourselves and others. But sometimes I cannot feel compassion, karuna, on the people, the person who we have had agreement and maybe driving mad. I mean, it's pain. Sometimes I cannot feel compassion at times. And I take the thing so many times. That's it. If I would like to know if you have something to feel compassion for people who make this pain.
Maybe you have a feeling of revenge.
You find it difficult to have compassion for somebody you have had an argument with. You jump one step. That's the thing. You jump one step. Before you have compassion for that person, you have to look at anger here. You have to look at tension in your heart, anger in your heart, unhappiness in your heart about that person. You recognize that because that's pain in your heart. So the compassion actually should be directed to your own heart, not to that person, because at that moment you are suffering, you are in pain. When you cannot have compassion for that person, you are in pain. This pain is caused by anger. You know, anger is like poison. If you get angry, you drink that poison, but you wish that person to die. You wish the other person to die, but he doesn't drink the poison. You are the one who drink poison. So what we do is we look at our anger, this pain, this anger. If we look at that anger as dukkha, as suffering, oh, I'm suffering from anger. I'm suffering from anger. This is suffering. This is dukkha. If you can feel compassion for yourself for 1 minute, just for 1 minute, then you will be ready to extend compassion to that person. When the meditation object, which is the exercise karuna and mudita, when they are not clear, when there's no clarity, when they are not strong, then we can doze off very easily. There are many reasons why we feel sleepy. Sometimes very simple, because physically we are tired. We are tired and we feel sleepy. But that doesn't happen. I mean, we don't fall asleep for a long time during meditation. Just a few, maybe minutes, sometimes seconds. Then we are okay. We feel fresh again. Sometimes when you find it difficult to connect with the object of mudita, that difficulty, and you work hard, but that difficulty, sometimes it presents the imbalance between the faculty, between effort and concentration. Only hard working, but there is no, and the mind can wander easily. But sometimes when we do mudita, we don't put enough effort into details. To recall memory, we don't put enough effort. So less effort, more concentration. That can also lead to either disinterest or sleepiness. But these things we need to encounter. We need to come face to face with them and see them, learn from them. The important thing is to have a group like this and persevere with the practice. You will find that if you keep up with this practice, the emotion management will be as good as in vipassana. if you keep up with this. If you like compassion, you stick with that. If you like mudita, you stick with that. Both of them, just like vipassana, they will also help you to work on the 5 hindrances. We haven't talked about this here.
I just would like to revisit the question I asked a few years ago. I just come to have a connection that can define what we call in Myanmar is the Namyo because Namyo is Rahu. You can see the sequences that have been destroyed. You feel that cannot come back again or something like the fear of something.
This is what we have been talking from day 2. Day 2 about mudita, diagnosing what is inside. Diagnosing. And diagnosing, okay, we see something very good. We have all the good intention for people to realize and to join our process, our thinking, our concept. But if people go the other way, go the opposite way, at that moment what we need is the ability to remain resilient. That resilience doesn't come easily unless we can work on the subconscious reaction. Subconscious reaction. We need to accept that there are pain. There are pains out there. There is suffering. This is the very reason that there is suffering. This is the very reason we should develop 10 paru. If there is no dukkha, no suffering, the Buddhist practices, they don't make sense. A lot of them don't make sense. So it's based on suffering. So from the very beginning, we have to expect disappointment, we have to expect and you mentioned that, okay, you feel bad because there is great opportunity lost and think something will never come back again. But here, that may be so. That may be so. Something may not come back again. Maybe the birds, maybe the tree. Planting trees. We are planting trees. I don't know how many millions of years since the trees were cut and the area became deforested and then also desert like in the Middle East. But you can see the Israeli who believe in human ability, how they transform the desert into arable land that can be cultivated. So this belief is very important. This belief is part of Nirodha Satya. Nirodha Satya is not only the extinction, the uprooting of negative emotion, but belief, a simple belief that we can do that. That is part of Nirodha Satya in the first round. That is why Nirodha Satya comes before Magga Satya, before we actually put things into practice. So psychologically, if we go to a doctor, the doctor would diagnose what's wrong with us, and he would tell us this can be cured. Only after that, he would give the medicine. Diagnosing is observing the symptom, dukkha satya. Diagnosing the cause of it, samudaya satya. After he has diagnosed it, before we were given anything, the doctor would tell us, this can be cured. The prognosis, this can be cured. And that belief in, but that the doctor believes himself, and that we believe in him, makes the difference. Otherwise, we will never take the medicine that he gives. And he will also never give that medicine. So that medicine is Magga Satya. This is a very psychological that we need to believe in. Many people talk about, for example, our country, the problem like this, like that. And I used to be part of that. But lately, after this kind of practice, I come to think that without a belief that we can change, we will never be able to do anything. So positive thinking in Buddhism means when we see dukkha, we believe that it can be overcome. Look at the Four Noble Truths. This is all the, from the Four Noble Truths, that it can be overcome in some way. And to do that, we need to work on our disappointment, we need to work on our subconscious reaction when they come up, using non-judgmental mindfulness and sometimes compassion. And like what I have just described to Venerable Dr. Vijaya, at that moment, compassion is to come to himself so that he can sustain himself. Otherwise, he would give up. He would give up on being compassionate toward that person. And that person will become enemy forever. Yeah. Sangamita.
So when I look at my negativity, after practice Bodhidharma myself, then I see that negativity is more, the positive achievement is more than that. So maybe now I couldn't overcome, but in future it's possible. So the disappointment reduced, just like before, like when there's something I couldn't overcome in my last vacation, when I went to meditation, I went to a place to be volunteer there, so I saw that sick people there, disabled people, but because of the dirtiness, then the first day when I reached, I felt that I can't do it. Very dirty, and the smell and the urine, the wound, and then I was disappointed with myself. Why I can't help these people? And then in my first retreat, the meditation teacher, he said, you should be Ubeka. You can't help everyone, but you couldn't help some people. You have to let go. Don't be sad with that. I don't know whether it is correct. I have to let go and I cannot help you.
I don't want to contradict your teacher. In that moment, patience is part of resilience. Patience is part of resilience. To hold ourselves up when we can't do anything, when many things are beyond our control. In that moment, people usually give up. People usually give up. I think mercy killing in way people advocate that, that can be seen as part of giving up. So, I mentioned the other day that many people believe they couldn't do anything with Ajatasat and Angulimala. People actually give up. The difference between them and the Buddha is that the Buddha didn't give up. As long as he still has breath, the Buddha wouldn't give up. That's the strength of his compassion, the strength of his belief in the goodness or in the potential goodness of people. Subhadra, an ascetic who had been practicing for many decades, he never actually paid attention to the Buddha's teaching. And he came at the last minute. For some people who have already given up on him, how would you say, okay, you have all the time and you didn't do anything, why you come now? Forget about it. People would say this. But the Buddha, he would do anything that he could. The reason is that he has worked on his anger, to put it in simple sentences. For him, no more anger. See? Disappointment and giving up, they are all part of dosa. They're all part of dosa. So we need to work on that. And now, usually you don't have like gross dosa, but mudita meditation brings something up. It diagnoses something. Very often it does it for me. Karuna meditation diagnoses something, mudita diagnoses something. Anything more? Sally Panyatiri? Anything?
So I want to add some comment on Sally's analysis experience. So when we face with one situation that's beyond our control, beyond our capacity, so then we neglect, like when we have upaka on that situation. So what I understand, most of the teachers or most of the people in Myanmar, we understand upaka is we ignore physically.
Is giving up.
Giving up. Just running away from that scenario. Just giving up. But I don't understand that way. What I understand is we must go on physically or verbally as far as we can do. We can go on, but in mind, we should not have any expectation. Like, oh, this person must be very good after my help. Or this person must be free from suffering out of my assistance. So we should not have that kind of expectation. That is ubeka. So ubeka is very tranquil and very subtle. It has no attachment. It has no expectation. So I think we must have ubeka in mind, but verbally or physically, we should not ignore any to help the people or to share anything. So, is that correct?
Yeah, in Burmese I gave one long talk on Ubeka. The title is Liliu Meshu Jomakaino Ubeka. Liliu Meshu Jomakaino Ubeka. I wanted to counter the popular opinion of Ubeka. Liliu Meshu means not ignoring. Jomakaino, not turning your back to the problem. Because the fundamental truth is about solving problem. You see? So if Ubeka is about ignoring problem, that we go against the spirit of the fundamental truth. Ubeka, actually upa ekha. Upa means closely, ekha means to see, to look at. To look at closely. Not only that, you don't run away. You actually look at the problem closely. But as you mentioned earlier, it has a very strong concentration in the samatha part. And in vipassana part, it also has a strong stability. Yeah. So the way I understand Ubeka is, I understand Ubeka in the context of Karuna and Mudita. Karuna has its obstacles. Mudita also has its own obstacles. The commentary, we call them enemy. The enemy of compassion and the enemy of joy. So we need to use either samadhi and jhana to work with those, to work on those obstacles, or well-trained mindfulness to work on them. Etang sating aditya, mindfulness. Brahma medang vihara. We need mindfulness for this Brahma vihara. Then, as we work and subdue the obstacles to compassion and to joy, and when those obstacles no longer come in to bother these two qualities, compassion and joy, those two qualities, they are balanced. What we're going to be doing tomorrow is to use that the same issue on number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and to switch from mudita to karuna, karuna to mudita, to be switching them like that. So if we can switch in no time, if we can switch in real time, I would consider that ubeka comes in automatically. So ubeka is not a separate issue in that sense, But it's separate because at that moment, Upekkha no longer focuses on the object, which is the suffering people, the joyful people. No longer focuses on that. He has already let go the number 1, 2, 3, 4 that we divide. When it comes to Upekkha, everything becomes the same. That's how I would understand Upekkha.
This is also connected with the idea of anatta?
Yes. Because, to use the scientists' saying, it was about memory and emotion, memory and feeling. To use memory to develop feeling. This feeling, if we practice again and again, the running thought will become lasting neural trait. This is what it is. Neural trait is a brain, the trait in the mind. The habit, the pattern in the brain. This is to use the mind to influence the brain. If you don't mind bringing in Abhidhamma, to use Citta and Cetasika to influence Citta Rupa, because the brain is Citta Rupa. Now, the way to do that is to first to work on the positive one. And then when the positive one are strong, and we can no longer be hijacked by negative emotion, but we should actually work with the negative one. By working like this, at the end, the two will become one. You can put it in many ways. You can say the good has replaced the bad, or the bad has been suited. You can say whatever you want, but both the good and the bad, the joyful feeling and the sad feeling, both of them, they will lose their influence to shake the mind. That's Upekkha. Yeah.
Yes, I had that experience when I practice today. At first, I look at the positivity, so positive things coming up. Then I notice also negative things are there. In the beginning, it's mixed up. So then, but I try to Upekkha on negative things. I am not annoyed with that. And then I look at focus on only the positive things. Then negative things automatically dim and positive things come up. Then when I look back, I think before there's no balance between positive and negative, there is no Upekkha.
Yeah.
We are struggling between, sometimes running between positive and negative. Then, at that moment, I think Upekkha is very important. If I focus on negative things, I cannot go on. So, I think Upekkha is mixing, is also involving in mudita practice.
Usually, I translate Upekkha as balanced emotion. Yeah, that's my translation. I also translate Samma Sankappa as right emotion, not right thought. Because Samma the three definitions, Abhyabhata, Avihingsa, Nekama, all the three of them, they are emotion. Abhyabhata, Metta, that's positive emotion. Avihingsa, Karuna, that's another positive emotion. And Nekama, not clinging. You have some emotion, positive emotion in that. Meaning conscious emotion instead of subconscious emotion. And that is why sometimes a little bit provocative, so I translate Samma Sankappa as right emotion.
This way I'm thinking, if at the prediction, for a prediction, if that person does not have enough experience in mindfulness, can they cultivate mudita easily, sir?
With close supervision, they would be able to do that, close supervision. Because from the second day, we have been talking about diagnosis. Definitely, mudita will diagnose what is in their mind. Maybe resistance, maybe disinterest, maybe anger, maybe jealousy. Why those people, they have so much, that sort of thing, and they don't deserve it, that sort of thing. So all the symptoms, they will be diagnosed. And we need, if people don't have mindfulness foundation, they need the teacher to guide them one by one on those reactions. Okay, tomorrow one more day, mudita, just one more day.